Good morning, traders. It's 8:02 a.m. Chicago time on Monday, the 8th of May, 2023. This is episode number 2464. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. A sound check, please, just to make sure I'm coming across clearly. We're going to jump right back into the convergent trading pre-market summary sheet here. Thank you all for the feedback from last week. Many of you have said that you look at this. Again, to get this as it drops, go to twitter.com/conv trading. Again, twitter.com/conv trading. And you'll be able to grab it as soon as it comes out. It comes out at about 8:50 Eastern every day. So what do we have today? Mixed market, leaning positive, risk on for the session. The Nasdaq is lagging a little bit. We didn't have very much to contend with here. There's a lot going on this week. The major risk overhang this week is the debt ceiling. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also this week has core inflation on Wednesday, and it has PPI on Thursday, as well as a BOE decision. And then we get GDP month on month on Friday, and those are the big figures for this week. The U.S. is closed for a bank holiday today. Biden's meeting with the Speaker of the House, McCarthy, and others on Tuesday to discuss the debt ceiling. It seems like this will be quite an embattled process here, and said he would not rule out invoking the 14th Amendment. White House reportedly weighing short-term extension of debt ceiling into fall, but this is seen as last resort option. U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen says that you need to raise the debt ceiling to avoid economic calamity. This is what every Treasury Secretary says every year. Buffett said he expects Berkshire Hathaway earnings to decrease this year due to economic downturn after posting strong Q1 results. So that's what's on deck for today. We had Tyson Foods. Before the open, we have PayPal after the close, but that's really it. Not really going to be a busy Monday, especially after non-farm payroll. So today, what's left on the calendar? 10 o'clock, ECB's lane. We also get U.S. wholesale inventories, consumer inflation expectations at 11. The Fed senior loan officer survey. That's banks are going to be paying attention to that. There is a credit crunch right now in the country, in the financial system, not from individuals. So the loan officer opinion survey is going to be important. The banks have just gotten absolutely hammered and are lagging dramatically behind. The Fed's semi-annual financial stability report at 4, and Fed's Kashkari speaking at 4:45. That's well after the close. So, and then tonight, the balance of trade for April. It says it's a UK bank holiday. UK. I don't believe it's a bank holiday here in the US. Let's look at the S&P. Look at your rotations for one. This is Monday. This is when we update the rotations. The rotations have moved up across the board. These numbers represent the first standard deviation on a profile of 1 minute bar data going back 20 sessions for the RTH, or the main session for the product. And what this is saying is that anything up to 5 points in the ES is considered normal. So if anything up to 5 points in the ES is considered normal, then this will be the value at which we would want to be setting our stops, or considering setting our stops. Across the board, things have ticked up maybe a tick or two in terms of rotations between this last week and a week before. Last week had some pretty decent volatility in it, so we expect it to uptick. The auction condition in the ES currently is multi-distribution. multi-distribution. There's been some pretty decent price discovery in the overnight session. We're still holding inside of Friday's range. Inventory is quite balanced. The range is 18.5 points. It's plus or minus 5 points. The range is 18.5 points. The high is 41.61. Friday's high was 41.63 and then the point of control is right there at the mid-century at 41.52. Okay, so that's what we've got today. Crypto's getting hammered a little bit today. That's about it. Looking at Friday, this was the key plan. Friday we were opening above Thursday's balance range, and the idea on Friday is buy any pullback, aim for 41.53. Okay, this is Friday's show, non-farm payroll show. Here's what actually transpired. So you can see against Thursday's range, this balance right here, Friday opened and it moved down. It moved down very little. It moved down about 3 points. We expected a response before it took off, and so Friday was all about finding or determining what pullback you can get on to get on the long side, because the reversal was quite clear there. I discussed that at length on Friday. You can watch that show. It held VWAP throughout and ended up taking out the 41.53 up here and pushing to 41.63 So this is exactly what was expected on Friday. The extent of it was not known, but this is what we looked for. We're looking for a reversal on Friday, and that's what we got. So no shorts on Friday. Remember, I put together a scenario for when the shorts would matter, and the shorts would matter if we push back into Thursday's range and fail to get out of Thursday's range. Then we're looking for a gap to settle, set up short in the ES. Okay, since then, here's your multi-distribution profile right here. And it's pushed up, pulled back, put in a low at 42.5, and has been just kind of sitting sideways. We have the point of control, full session VWAP mid, right on top of each other. We're still trading on the inside. To me, this is looking like it is likely to be a pretty dull trading day. You can see that in the relative delta as well. Relative delta is fairly flat for the session so far, with volume being pretty low. So yeah, volume's at 100 and let's look at it. 134,000. Remember, we expect it to be around 240,000, 280,000. So it's about half of what we would expect at this point. No smoking guy today. Too many wiggles in that profile. Here's the Nasdaq. Nasdaq, same story. Talked about this as well. Nasdaq opened right here at 13,139. Really expected 13,200 at least in the Nasdaq. We open up, we test down about 15 points, and then we take off. And then the Nasdaq again is tapping on that VWAP early on, and then we have pretty good separation from VWAP later in the session. Pretty decent pullbacks and retests of the IB. What we notice here is that the both the ES and the Nasdaq, something really important to point out. It's like a triple distribution or quadruple distribution profile. Oh, there's your smoking guy. Oh, he's smoking one of those long cigars. Right? There's your dude right there. If you look at what it has done, the important thing to check out is that even though we finished at the upper end of the range, we did fall quite a bit from the high. Okay? And what has happened here is that we left the point of control in the middle of the range. To me, this expresses a strong potential for a rotation back down into that now famous 30, 34.35 zone. So we left the point of control at 34.50. We left the mid and so on from Friday at about 36. And the fact that we ran away from the middle of the session, from the point of control, and didn't shift it by the end of the session. And also, we didn't finish at the high. The cash close was right here. And you can see we've moved a fair amount from the high, about 10 points, 11 points. And so this VPOC hasn't shifted to the high of the range. If it had shifted to the higher range on a reversal day with the market closing at the upper quartile, I would say very likely the auction to the upside is not done, and we're very likely to see a rally today. But it didn't do that. We do have a weak high in the overnight session, but there is a bit of a magnet to the downside. So I'm going to tell you again, what doesn't sound good about the mic? I don't get it. Is it too clicky or something? Maybe it's too close. So if you look at it, you'll find that very, very likely we're going to attract selling into the 30 to 35. And so this is the key for today, is to watch for that. So I know that we rallied on Friday. Friday can be seen as an impulse day. We didn't finish at the high. Any push through the 63 on Friday, I'm expecting that to fail back towards this settlement. If not, I'm expecting this thing to auction in an open auction and start to move down. But again, please note the 30 to 35 area is potentially a very likely test today in today's session. Other than that, not expecting too much. If you look at the NQ has the same sort of configuration. If you look at the NQ here, look at this thing. Again, multi-distribution profile. And there's your doobie smoker right there. And you can see that the NQ had its point of control right in the middle of the range, has not retested that point of control. And this is very, very likely to move back towards 13,265 and potentially 13,200 from the top again down here in the NQ. Same configuration, point of control in the middle of the range, pushed the highs, but then drifted back down and was unsuccessful. Even though there's quite a bit of trading up here, it was unsuccessful at moving value or moving acceptance to the high end of the range. To me, this is very likely to test to the downside. That's one thing you want to check out. Okay, so what happens then? Oh, good question. So we get down to the 35. What then? What then? Once it gets back into the 35, you need to move to your higher time frame chart, right? And what that shows us is this: we're basically in this range right here. Okay, so we are trading in this range from 63 to about 30. Okay, once it moves into the 30, 35, if it pokes through and comes back in, it's very likely to hold and trade at the 41.50, which was settlement from Friday. If it gets below and then it has weak pullbacks, then it really opens up the way down into the 41.10 again, right here, 41.10, 41.10 again, and then potentially 4100. Very unlikely we'd get a continuation to the downside. But despite the gap and go behavior of Friday, what did we accomplish? We're back in the middle of the range. So don't get too caught up in what has happened in one day. This hasn't really accomplished very much even though it went up to 63, it still finished at 50 and it's still stuck in the middle of the range. So any movement away is likely to come back. Any movement away is likely to come back, and that's what it did on Friday. It moved away into the 63, came back to 50. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at right now. How am I choosing those levels? Both price action history and the profile tells me where the auction's limits are, and if it exceeds those limits, then I expect it to continue, pull back, and then to break through, pull back to those low volume nodes, and then continue in that direction. I've talked a lot about volume profiling over the years. There are a lot of videos on that, so I won't cover it here. Crude, I warned last week after this excess low on very little volume. This was just a flush and return, and I warned that shorts are likely to be toast, and this thing has pushed right back up. Crude opened today at 73, tested to 72.85, 86 or so, and is pushing higher. Crude is very likely to take out Friday's high at 73.45 and continue higher. I'm expecting crude up at 74 today, minimum 74 right here. And once it gets to 74 to this low volume node, it's very likely to chop around. The target becomes this high volume node, and then beyond there we're looking at 77 up here. Crude, very technical trade, and really progressing very, very well. It's a decent read. RTY, really decent gap on Friday, and same story, double distribution profile, finished in the upper distribution, settled at 1765, but the point of control still at the low end of the range, expecting the Russell to kind of play around these two distributions today, expecting it to kind of ping pong from the 1767 all the way down to the 1758 or so, and just sit there. So don't, this is the kind of day I wouldn't bet too much. Wouldn't bet too much directionally, and just be aware that the context overall is that we're still inside balance. Same thing in the YM, right? The YM is just outside of this balance box and very likely to move lower. It's moved lower already. It's down here. We're still in balance. If you look at the ES, still in balance. Okay, we're right on top of the MC point of control, this area of 53. So let's not get carried away and expect another big day up or something. Okay, good luck today. Don't forget to hit the like button if you're not a subscriber to the channel. I would appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. It's free, and to help others, this will help others find the channel. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.